She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would
I understand
make at
that. I'm
that
asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
I certainly could have said a week from her due date, and that would have been the same answer, correct?
That it's allowed in the bill, yes.
Yes. And in addition to what you just represented, you do acknowledge that you substantially changed the standard by removing.
Many people right now are hearing on the news about the current legislations that's happening in Virginia and in New York relating to the redefinition of when is a fetus considered to be a human being. And I decided to do this video because, as you see in the graphics, it says tribulation. A lot of people laugh this off and they say that there is no such thing as a tribulation, or at least it's not going to happen anytime soon because of specific things the Bible mentions relating to the world around us. The Antichrist will come. Several things that Jesus told about in Matthew and in Mark and Luke, they say it hasn't happened yet. But I contend that everything that he said would happen has already happened. And we see these things continuing over and over again, including earthquakes. The only thing we have not seen yet in the understanding of the Bible's end times relates to a comet or a meteor that will impact the earth, and it will destroy not only a third of all life, it'll pollute all the fresh water of the world. And you think about how they keep claiming that global warming is going on in the world, and this is supposed to be melting all of the polar ice caps and making more and more weather changes because of it. And I have to contend to everybody that this is really the beginning of what will destroy our water supplies, and it's not global warming. The earth itself is polarity-wise, it's changing. There is magnetic fluxes that are affecting how television, how radio works. They've seen evidence of solar flares in the past, but the scientific community have said numerous times that they're seeing changes in our magnetic field around the earth. And what really global warming relates to isn't about that the earth is climactically being influenced by man's altering the environment. It's about really the fact that God has already told us over and over again that in the end times he would bring judgments on this planet, and it will affect everything in our environment, as well as how we live our lives, how we relate to each other, how we relate to who God is and what he's doing in our country, what he's doing in the world. And I find it amazing how people are just so indifferent to the things that the Bible already said would happen. Bringing up this issue about Virginia and the New York legislation, they're saying that a woman who is in pregnancy for 9 consecutive months, and we're talking the 9th month, can still have an abortion. She can have the abortion on the day of her actual delivery. If she chooses to kill that baby, which is already alive, it has a heart beating inside of it. They're saying if she goes in for delivery and she's in labor, according to Virginia's law, according to the New York law, the child can be terminated as far as the actual birth can be terminated. The governor of actual Virginia itself said, "Oh, this is overblown," but yet it was a woman who brought up this law, which I assume she actually advocated for it. Said the law gives the woman the legal right to abort a baby, whether it's in process of being delivered, whether or not they're in labor. So the governor, who said, "Oh, well, that's not true. It's now up to the individual doctor and the actual woman herself to decide that." Folks, that's a lie, because he said in the interview, and this was on Sean Hannity, that the government must get out of the stipulation of involving itself in these kinds of decisions that are made between the mother, the father, the doctor. Well, he's already been found to be a liar in that regard, because when Roe versus Wade was actually debated and then found to be a legal grounds for abortion, the government already had involvement in that decision between the woman, between the doctor and the husband and the mother, because now the government has influenced and actually involved itself through litigation, through actual legal identification of saying the woman has the decision and the right to kill, bar none, without anybody saying otherwise. And this today upset Sean Hannity to the point of saying, well, we need to discuss the fact that this is happening, and that the definition of what is and what is not a human being is now basically thrown out the window. Now it's saying whether the child's unborn, whether it is born, the woman chooses and has the right to kill it, whether or not it's still in the birth canal, whether it's not, whether it's been born already. I attribute all these facts, ladies and gentlemen, to the reality that humanity is now seeing itself below the value and below the actual level of an animal, because now we don't consider that life, whether it's defined as one or the other or how they see it, it's not valued anymore. God said, woe unto children who are unborn, to woe those who are nursing. I mean, that's so obviously direct in what he was telling society, that we cannot see ourselves in society being humane anymore, because we don't consider human life to be of value. And that is why I have said over and over again in my videos that the tribulation is about one specific subject: the degeneration of the human condition, the destruction of the human condition being valued, because now we are at the point of really the breakdown of civilization, of society itself. People are shooting each other. People now have no tolerance about other people's opinions. You know, the blacks are just totally, in tantrums all the time about things that people have had the rights in the past to express themselves and to have their say of whatever issue is being discussed, and now the blacks are saying, no, you don't, because now it's up to us to decide whether or not you can have that discussion, whether you can do that particular thing or not. And it's not only disgusting to see that happening, but that society accepts it. They advocate for it. They allow it to happen because they don't care how it offends other people. all they're caring about is whether it offends a black, whether it offends a woman. Men in the equation are now completely thrown out. They're unimportant. And if you say the tribulation hasn't begun, it's because you already accept the lies that Obama told you for 8 years, that for us to be a society and to have the utopia that they all wanted, you must throw out what's normal. You have to throw out what's decent, what's ethical, what's moral. You don't hear anybody saying those words because they don't want to live that way anymore. They don't want to have any kind of constructive life where you follow certain things that you know have always been seen as right, and then you live because you know that's the way it's always been, that's the way it's supposed to be, because that's how God created it. And now they're saying, well, the first thing we destroy is normalcy, and then the next stage is to destroy those who have any feelings of religion or values. You don't hear them or see them pointing fingers in a Muslim's face. You don't see them pointing fingers in a Hindu's face or a Buddhist or any other religion. They are continually going against Christianity, and that's why you see this this arrogant projection of hate towards anybody who doesn't accept the immoral, the degenerate. I'm referring to gays, to marriage, to homosexuality, to transgenders, to bisexuals. They call you homophobic, xenophobic, this, that, and the other. These are only their answers for what they've always known was wrong, evil, and now it's the opposite. They turned it all upside down. The tribulation, though, is something that will go on for 7 years, and I still contend that it's Obama who is the Antichrist because of what he has done in the time he was president and what he is still doing to this day in this nation. He is influencing everything on a daily basis that the Democratic Party does against this country and against its citizens, against its people. And they are turning upside down the laws that have always existed in this country. And it's to the point now where we cannot hope to be a nation of unity when all they want to do is to divide this nation further and further down the road. And war is something that we've always thought was something happening outside the United States and other countries, but it's a tantamount to something that will happen in America soon, very, very soon. This is what the Democrats want. They want war in America because once martial law is instigated, they know that the Constitution thereafter is abolished itself, because then there is no presidential terms of office anymore. Once martial law is instigated, that's the end of any chance. If they put a Democrat in there, they put Obama back in there, you don't think that can happen? It can happen. Because Congress, the Senate, the whole structure of the United States as a government system has gotten to the point where the laws that are supposed to be upheld are thrown out and thrown aside by those in government who are supposed to uphold those laws, and they are only wanting to do what the socialists and the communist Democrats want them to do. It's very, very evident that for Obama to be there and to be saying the things he's saying through the Democrats and say he can't come back into office again because the law says he cannot, when they're showing every day the law is a joke, that it's not legit anymore, that is proof positive that the Democratic Party, the swamp, which Trump is trying to abolish and destroy like he said he was going to do, is now a complete communist regime that is controlling and manipulating our government system. It's manipulating our legal rights as citizens of America. That's why they put more priority and more value on illegals, because an illegal has no idea of what was America. All they've ever seen in the time that they've been born in these third world countries like Mexico and Brazil is that America was supposed to be a place where they could come and they could pretty much live high on the hog at the expense of everybody else who have been paying into the system. The system, in terms of us paying taxes, will never change, because as long as we pay taxes and as long as we pay into it, they can keep functioning. They, meaning the Democratic Party, the socialists. If we stopped paying taxes, if we stopped the whole system by saying we're not paying taxes because illegals don't pay taxes. Illegals come here and get it all for free while we're paying for it. Enough idiots who love Obama would say, I have no problem paying for somebody else to come here and to live off of me. That is idiocy, folks. You earn money because you expect it to be there when the time comes that you need it. You don't give it away to some stranger. And that is the idiocy of socialism. That's the idiocy of communism. Them telling you it's now up to us to decide what you have and what you can use and who's going to get it. And it all has an echo effect on Barack Obama and what he said during the campaign in 2008. Joe the plumber, he told him over a period of 3 or 4 days, what you earn and what you have, it's now my decision whether or not you keep it, whether it's going to be given to somebody else, whether it be an illegal, whether it be somebody else who's not entitled to it. It's now up to him to decide that. For 8 years, that's what the morons, the illiterates, they love that. And then they say, well, nothing Obama ever did was wrong. But yet he didn't honor the police who were shot in Ferguson. He didn't honor those who deserved to be honored and respected. Instead, what did he do? He projected a symbolic reference to evil and said, we're going to honor the homosexuals, we're going to light up the White House and the rainbow, but everybody else who deserves it, like our military, the police, those who serve, it wasn't important to him. Certainly wasn't important enough for him to do anything that projected this attitude of respect for everybody, respect for those who deserve respect. He didn't do that. And they still idolize him today. They still love Barack Obama, and they would do anything he asks them to do for him. I'll give you an example of somebody who was just like that. Jim Jones was a preacher who began his ministry as an actual reverend, a pastor. Over the time that he was in charge, he perverted his position. He began taking narcotics, and in the end, he killed 1,000 people in Guyana by making them take cyanide-laced Kool-Aid. Now, people know about this in history. Most, if not all, of his congregation in Guyana were blacks. Do you see the blacks taking the attitude, we don't want somebody like Jim Jones controlling us? But he is an exact mirror image of Barack Obama. Obama tells everybody, blacks, homosexuals, every kind of individual who feels like they're being suppressed and being subjugated, he's told them over and over again, you want me in power because you want me to be a voice for you and who you are. And Jim Jones did that in People's Temple for the whole time that he was promoting his People's Temple in California and in other places. And then finally, when he found that people were rejecting him and what he stood for, he didn't fight as much as he wanted to flee from that sort of restrictions and those kinds of people that put him down. And he took all that congregation of 1,000 people down to Guyana. He created a settlement called Jonestown. Jonestown, in every essence, was a prison. It was like he was putting all those innocent people into a FEMA camp. He had armed guards around that whole place the whole time they were there. And when the time was at the point where he felt like we're losing this fight because the government sent representatives from Congress down there to talk to him about the fact that these people wanted to leave, many of them, and he held them against their will. And again, I bring up the fact that this is a total mirror. Instead of 1,000 people under a dictator like Jim Jones, now you have 3, 5, 8, however billions of people make up the United States of America. They're now under that same dictatorship, except it's Barack Obama instead of Jim Jones who's doing it. I don't think people even realize to this day that somebody who has a fatalistic viewpoint of totalitarianism and communism as being the only real outcome for a nation. Their whole philosophy is they're a fatalist. They don't believe that anything else is important or will happen except that their idea of utopia, of suppression or just domination of the world is the only thing that matters. Adolf Hitler was like that. Mussolini was like that. Every sort of crazy in the past 1,000, 2,000 years of human history has proven these people wanted something they never could achieve because it was wrong. And it never was accomplished because God said, no, this is not what he intended for this world to be. Jim Jones, when he was found dead in Guyana, do you know he did not even try to do what his congregation did? He used a gun to escape reality. He used it to escape punishment and judgment. He didn't take laced cyanide Kool-Aid like the rest of his followers did. He used the quickest, easiest way to get out of what he knew would be the outcome of his acts. The congregation suffered who knows what horrors during those moments after they drank cyanide, because that's what Jim Jones wanted. He took their money, he took their lives, and all he wanted was just to be the head honcho of all those people. It didn't start off that way, though. He was a decent man, and then over time he used his position and his power to control those people. And I see that same man in Barack Obama today. He's controlling this world. He's controlling all of its people, one way or the other, through this ideology that communism and dictatorship are the only good things about the world that have been proven to be the outcome for humanity. And it's ludicrous not to look back in history and say those who repeat the past are condemned to repeat it, because it is happening right now in front of us in America. And not enough people have the guts to stand up against Barack Obama and to say this is wrong. And here's the proof. One man, Jim Jones, in California, went to Guyana and killed 1,000 people. And now you take it 1,000 times worse than that. And now you got Obama doing the same thing to all the American public. You know? Who created sanctuary cities? That was Obama's conception during the time he was president. He believed that giving sanctuary to drug dealers, to the mafia, to those who wanted to come to this country and do whatever they wanted to, he started that. And now we see the results of it. People being shot down And the police have no legal rights to go into these areas and arrest people who are committing these crimes. And there is no accountability for it. And Obama showed his unaccountability during his 8 years as president. He let a Marine, a garrison of men in Benghazi with the U.S. ambassador die, and he did nothing to protect them, especially Hillary Clinton, who was Secretary of State. And to this day, nobody holds those people accountable for those acts. All they want to do is bash Trump, because Trump is trying to do what's right for America. And they don't want that. They want to have another Barack Obama in office. And that's what the Democrats keep saying over and over again. You know, we're spoiled brats. We are having temper tantrums every single day since Trump was inaugurated because they don't like the fact he won the election. They can't get beyond that. They don't want to get beyond that. Now, I'll take you to another subject. Who can't get beyond their past? Who can't get beyond what this whole thing is continuing to go around in circles? The blacks. The blacks can't get beyond the fact that they were slaves, that their ancestors were slaves. So everything and every time you see them, they're talking and bringing up the fact that this is what they were. That's why they idolize as a deity Martin Luther King. This is why they idolize and make a deity out of Malcolm X and other blacks who were supremacists during the times that they were in power. And they cannot see beyond this one part of their past history, that because they were slaves, nobody else is ever going to forget that, except that they're going to destroy other things that relate to the Civil War that they don't like. And that's why they're destroying and desecrating human graves in cemeteries where the Confederacy monuments are placed, where they were buried. They're desecrating human beings and taking their bodies out of the ground. But now you see why they can get away with it, because now they have now destroyed the desecration and the preservation of human life, because now they're killing human beings before they're even born, to the level where the child's about to be born out of a mother, and they're saying, well, it's still not really considered human life because it's not outside the womb yet. It's still inside the mother. So if you want to kill it, now the laws in Virginia and in New York are saying that's perfectly all right. You can still kill it because we don't define it to be human life because it's not been born yet. Does that sound ridiculous? It's happening, folks. And they were cheering in New York when that legislation passed. They were cheering, they were clapping at the idea that now human life no longer has value, that an animal's life has more value than a human being. And that's scary to believe that we're at the point and the level of we are as a society in America to say that human beings mean nothing. That they want another person like Barack Obama in office who destroys the value of a human being, destroys our society. Jim Jones, in my book, is a perfect reflection of who Obama still is. Obama is still doing what he started to do as a communist dictator. And I don't care what anybody says, Obama is still doing what he started doing when he was the president of this country. And you see that hatred against Trump. And you know who it's behind the whole campaign of bash, condemnation, the Mueller investigation about the Russian involvement. There was no collusion. The only collusion was Hillary Clinton buying a Russian dossier of lies about Trump. And she's never been held accountable any more than Obama himself for giving $150 billion to Iran, a known terrorist nation. And all these facts are totally dismissed by our media. The media is now fake news. And they're not held accountable for their actions either. They have a Hippocratic oath as a journalistic organization that they will be truthful, they will be honest. No station now uses the words dependable, dedicated, responsible for what they report. Because now, again, it's Obama telling all the media outlets, as he did as president, you can throw that all out. You're going to do and you're going to report what I tell you to. And this is Obama talking. He's telling people, you're going to say what I want you to say, because this is the only scenario that the American public are going to be told and given. And they will believe it, because there is no other information that they're going to get except through radio. And you see the Democrats constantly saying, oh, you can't trust Rush Limbaugh, you can't trust Sean Hannity to say the truth. And honestly, they're the only ones who are telling the truth. Because if you believe only one fact, and that's what the media tells you through television, you're never going to get the truth. You're never going to get facts. Because that's why everything now is labeled fake news, false news, because that's what Obama is telling you. Good example of what we're seeing about fake news. When President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, they did a Warren Commission. The Warren Commission had so many facts that were left out because the government only wanted to appease the public of what they wanted them to know, that to this day, 56 years later, it's still the only thing people believe, even though other facts have come out of what happened. And people don't want to hear true facts anymore, because they only want to believe what the government tells them. And that's one-sided, to say, you're not objective, you're not open-minded to see all facts. You only want to see one direction, one viewpoint. And that's what the government tells you. The government tells you taking marijuana is not wrong. Using marijuana is not wrong. Taking heroin is not wrong. Who started that campaign? Barack Obama. Who constantly tells the world that for the world to have safety, to have non-human interference in climate change, we have to control what governments are doing with plants and other things that pollute our atmosphere. Dan Quayle, Al Gore, specifically Al Gore, started this whole lie of climate change, global warming. He was proven wrong. That's why you don't hear Al Gore coming forward anymore saying, global warming's real, it's this, it's that. Now they're just using any lie they can to say, you know, if we keep going the way we are with the greenhouse emissions and all the rest of it, they're saying in 12 years there won't be a world anymore. It's not going to be global warming, folks. It's going to be God and His judgment coming on this world. And it's coming now. It's happening right now through the tribulation that's starting. It's coming now because of the Antichrist. Barack Obama himself is doing these things. He knows he's got only 7 years to do what he's going to do. But can we really say it's a literal 7 years' time? It could be 12 years of a tribulation. It could be very gradual of all the other things that I've mentioned. But in the end, we know who is going to be the victor when it's all said and done, folks. It's going to be Jesus Christ. He's going to come back to this world, and He's going to take out the Antichrist. He's going to take out Satan. He's going to take out the false prophet. Who is that? I believe it's Pope Francis. Because Pope Francis did something he's never done in the history of the papacy. He took the position as Pope from a reigning Pope, and that's Benedict XVI. And what did he do? He abdicated. The first time in Catholic Church history that a Pope who was alive would abdicate his position as the papacy and give it to somebody else. Then what did Pope Francis do the day that he took that position? He went to the public of Italy, to the Vatican, to the world, and said, everything you've known, everything you've understood of what the Bible has said, I am going to abolish it. I'm going to say it is no longer, it's not a validity issue anymore. It's not true. It's not real. He now has said that excommunication of those who have been thrown out of the Catholic Church, they are now allowed to come back in again. They have seen fact over fact of priests who have sodomized children. And all they say is, okay, well, we've done these things, so what? Let's just get over it and forget it. The Catholic Church has not taken a stance on bringing up these people like they did during the German Nuremberg trials, bringing these people up for crimes against humanity. The Pope hasn't done any of that stuff because he knows the only thing that matters to him is to do whatever Satan and the Antichrist tells him to do, because this is what matters in the long term of what the global government system, the New World Order, is about. George Bush said it 23 times during the time he was president. New World Order. Obama didn't have to say it because he's already instigated it. He's already instigated the global world order. He said, that's here. That's done. And then he sit there and use the facade of saying the global economy. The global economy is just one facet of a global government, a new world order government. Because once the financial setup has been established, the only outcome is the next step, and that's the government manipulating the world economy, the world as a global government system. And once it's instigated, the only outcome is the Antichrist, because then he is the leader of all of it. For 8 years, we had a taste of what the Antichrist is doing, and what he is still doing, and what he will do in the country, in the world. So if people just want to pretend like, I don't believe any of that, that's conspiracy, that's this, that's that, one day you're going to wake up. It's already too late. I'd say everybody now doesn't care because they think, I've got my marijuana. I'm high. What does it matter anymore? It does matter. Because somebody, a much powerful force, is still coming. Not the Antichrist, not Satan, but God himself is going to come back, and that's Jesus Christ. And when he does, there's going to be a final judgment after that 1,000-year reign when Jesus returns. First the rapture happens, Jesus then returns 7 years after, or potentially it could be maybe a little longer than that. He'll rule the earth for 1,000 years of peace, and then he'll let the Antichrist out with Satan for one last chance to re-establish decency in the world. He won't do it. He'll bring up all the forces that's still there against Jesus' one last fight at Armageddon. He'll be eradicated, thrown into the lake of fire with all of those who were his followers, and that includes the fallen angels, the degenerates of this world who don't care about anything. And then that's when it's going to be the final judgment. And that'll be everybody. Everybody will be judged. So if you want to pretend like it's not going to happen, it's not this, it's not that, I'm just going to live the way I want to, the rest of it, it is mind-boggling that only 20 years ago, decency was still in America. Sanity was still in America. And now look at it, in only 20 years, how we have just totally lost it as a society, as a world. We've lost it. We've lost responsibility. We've lost mentality. We've lost it all. Because you see, that's what Satan does. Clouds your mind. Makes you believe a lie. Because that's what the Antichrist is all about. He is Satan's prodigal son who's going to do it in a physical sense. And then all of a sudden you're going to wake up one day and say, whoa, how did this happen? It's too late. Because when that takes place, that's when Jesus is going to return. And then people are going to be scared to death. The Bible even says that. The Bible said, all of the degenerates, all the depravitated, all the rest of society, all the world's going to be crying out, please, Lord, throw the rocks down on us so we can escape all of this. Let us hide in caves under the ground so we don't have to worry about facing what Jesus is going to bring on the world. And I think people are pretty much feeling like that today. They know how bad it is, and they know it's going to get worse, and they're thinking, oh man, we just want this whole thing over with. But yet a lot of them still idolize Obama. And that's the joke. Because sooner or later, folks, it's going to end. His power is going to end. And when it does, whoever's left will have the option only to pick up the pieces. And then Jesus will return and he'll put it all back the way it should be. But it's going to only be after he returns, whenever that happens. I can't prophesy and say I know exactly to the day of when it's going to happen. But I see the signs in the Bible, and they're being carried out. They're happening around me right now. And that's all I need. All I need to do is see what the Bible's told me. And it's happening. And it's all folding out like a scroll. The Bible says one day the whole world, the universe is going to scroll. It's a scroll, and it's all going to be folded together. That means it's all going to end. Then God is going to recreate it all. And all you have to do as a person is see it and understand it. And then take the initiative to do something about it. And not let the degenerates to destroy everything else that's still left. Because Obama is going to continue what he's doing until he's finished. And so will the communist Democrats. And every other person. The atheists, the homosexuals, all the degenerates, all the immoral people. They want the Antichrist because they think he's the one that's going to control it. He's going to bring it all together. All he's going to do is bring down anything and everything that's still left in this world. They're going to destroy it because Satan has already known. His time is short. Read it in Revelation. Perfect book of the Bible. It lays it out for you right there in black and white, right there in a page that was actually written 2,000 years ago. And people still scoff at it and say, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, if you want to live a lie, go ahead. You cannot make a horse drink. You can lead it to water. You can say, there it is, right in front of you. But you can't make a horse drink water. You can only show him where it is. It's up to that horse to decide if it's really thirsty enough, it's going to drink it. Otherwise, it ain't going to do nothing. It'll just stand there until it dies, falls right on the ground, because it's like, I'm not going to believe this. I'm not going to do anything. That is what the Bible says will happen. A lot of people are going to be like that dead horse. They won't hear it. They won't believe it. That is our world in 2019. Thank you.
His name is Omran Daknesh, just 5 years old, and his feet barely hung over the edge of a seat in an ambulance. Dazed, he didn't cry as he wiped away blood and the dust of a building that collapsed around him in an airstrike. His silence somehow reminded the world today of its silence in the face of the atrocities in Aleppo. Omran was pulled out alive Wednesday. 5 other children died when the building they were in was hit during the relentless Syrian-Russian offensive on rebel-held areas in Aleppo. The image of Omran's face spread like wildfire on the internet. One tweet called him the real representative of the Syrian people.
Stop killing Syrian innocent people, civilian. Our children need to live in peace.
The doctor who treated Omran said today there were many more severe cases no one is paying attention to.
We need to protect our hospital, our doctors, our medical workers from airstrike.
Omran is recovering. His family now wants to escape. The same choice another boy's family made a year ago, Aylan Kurdi, whose body washed up on a beach. He too was a symbol of Syria's youngest victims. Now there's a new one. Tomorrow there may be another. Richard Engel, NBC News.
They've reported from around the world, challenged the powerful, and they bring all of this to every story that breaks.
We've got breaking news, and it's good news.
And touches your heart.
How do you even say thank you? Thank you is not big enough.
I made this.
The images shocked the world. Relentless bombings. Stunned survivors.
Bye.